You up to speed with the latest headlines on the local dailies. And Kefa Ojiji, an advocate of the High Court, is here this morning. Thank you so much for your time. I can already see you're already in the Standard newspaper, as you can see. Of course, the biggest story is that meeting with Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki. Yes. The third one, right after President Uhuru Kenyatta earlier on in May. On the April of 12th, we saw him again with the retired President Mwai Kibaki. And now, or rather, Moi, and now we're seeing him with Mwai Kibaki, rather.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you think this, and because we don't know details of the conversation, could we be seeing succession talks?
I don't think it appears as succession talks per se, but therefore it may form the soft spot for future negotiations in political interest. The most important thing is that politics is about perception, and for Raila to ensure to reach out to the other masses and to make sure that people believe that handshake works, he has to start traversing by areas that are seen not to be, is political friendly. And that is why we saw him first starting with the former president, Daniel Moi. And then now he's back to
Mwai
Kibaki. It's traversing in areas that, are adamantly opposed him politically. So that when people start seeing this, then they start feeling, okay, this friendship is being built, and therefore handshake is really on the right path.
So you don't think succession is there? Because remember when he was meeting Moi, his son Gideon Moi was there. When he was meeting Kibaki yesterday, his son was there as well.
Succession is there, but not at this point.
Not at this point.
Not at this point. In fact, if you want to know how politics play along, is that first you have to create an impression and perception to the people. And then meeting them, you realize that when he met these people, he met them with other people that even politically have opposed him. You see, that was not the right forum to discuss political succession. You see, it was just a forum to ensure that first, your friends, let me bring you together to these people so that we know that it is not about politics, it's about perception. But then it forms a soft spot for further discussions in the near future about 2022 and 2027 realignment. Yes.
So you don't think it's any succession talks?
At this point.
But we don't know the details of their meeting. All three meetings, we have no details. But what do you think was top of that agenda?
Raila reaching out to Kibaki and Moi are two different things. He was reaching out to Kibaki as a colleague, somebody they worked with, they were sharing powers.
And they have passed together?
Yes. As a colleague, they were working with and sharing, equal powers in government. And so, first, it might have been on a friendly basis as a colleague, and two, it might have been, on an informed agenda of, you also need to ensure that the people that once were, the old allies in politics, if you read the 48 laws of power, tells you that you never shake off the old allies. You see, the old allies may inform the future, your future in politics. So therefore, you realize that the most important thing, let me first reach out to this guy. He was once my colleague. He's also an ally. He's also an enigma in politics on his own. I need to know what he thinks about this. He needs to endorse me because he's also a big man from the central Kenya.
Right.
You see? So with that, then it starts appearing to the public masses that at least the handshake is, driving us on the right path. But with Moi, it might have been different because, see, with Moi, it was not on on an equal level like the way they were with Kibaki. With Moi has always been known to be the kingmaker.
The godfather of
the godfather and the kingmaker of who becomes this. So that when you want then to become relevant, you see every politician running to Moi and not running to any other president. So it is good that they started with that, so that it shows perception and respect. That Raila is not just, he also looks at the order of hierarchy. He is the senior most in politics. And that is the person we have to start with first. Then I move to this person. The next person will be any other person.
You know what, Kefa, the other thing that raised a lot of eyebrows in this recent meeting is the fact that Mike Mbuvi Sonko, the current governor of Nairobi, was also there.
That is why.
What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly, and that is why I'm telling you it was not about succession, because we know Mike Mbuvi Sonko has been an ardent supporter of William Ruto. You see, and William Ruto is one guy that is trying to break through this, the whole idea that people call dynasty. The dynasty family.
Yes,
William Ruto appears to be the new face, according to him. So Mike Mbuvi Sonko presence, therefore, derails or therefore, outdoes anything to do with succession. It was a general talk, as per my view, on, the uniting Kenyans and everything. But however, politics is tricky, so that it's not only what you see on the surface. A lot of work is done behind the scenes, so that it may have been just a formal discussion, but it forms a soft spot, you see, and the bargaining point future realignments in 2022 and 2027.
You know what, Kefa, the good thing, what I'm looking forward to is the 2nd of May, where we're expecting Mr. Kenyatta to now be briefing Kenyans on that handshake that happened earlier or rather in May, yes, or in March. So we'll get to know details about that. So you can get details of that Raila and Mwai Kibaki's meeting, page 2 of the Saturday Standard this morning. There's also a very interesting story. Before we can move on to Chebukati and the drama with IEBC, if I look at, still on page 1, the Kenya master fraudster falls into US trap. Now, this is quite a very interesting story. Let's take you to page 4, all right? Page 4. And I'll read this first paragraph for the sake of our viewers, so you can also get an idea of why this specific story is so important. Listen to this. It was supposed to be an easy transaction, the kind drug dealers do in movies, product in exchange of money, and a handshake. Jeffrey Silas' connection in Texas, US, told him he had identified a person willing to buy one of his treasury checks for 76,000 US dollars. That's about 7.6 million Kenyan shillings, for only 40,000 US dollars. That's about 4 million. This does sound like a movie, because even with what the Standard newspaper has done, it has painted for you an image of who he is, the sort of luxurious cars he's had, the 2 planes that he owns that cost about 48 million Kenyan shillings. So you get to know the person, the face behind this specific one. I would let you grab your Saturday newspaper, and you can get to go through that story on page 4 and page 5. But because we're already on page 4 and 5, the Turkana Festival has been taking part this week, and we've seen a lot of the leaders there. Of course, Margaret Kenyatta was the one who opened that ceremony. Yesterday, we saw Deputy President William Ruto also engaging there. And of course, for him, center of his speech was the issue of oil. Ojijo.
Yes.
This oil issue in Kenya, ever since we discovered that we have oil in Turkana.
You see, Nanok has been wood. You need to understand, why is it that Nanok, from 2013, has been, on constant work with Raila Odinga till after the nullification of 8th August election.
Right.
You realize that he aligns himself more strategically with the Jubilee government rather than Raila Odinga at this point. The fact is this. Remember the debate of the percentage of, the natural resources that ought to remain with the county government. Right. Nanok has been pushing for this so that the percentage at least be raised to, 8% on what the local should benefit from. Now, he realized that in this government, it's a very funny thing, because in this government, even the laws that you have that may protect you, you see, sometimes, with utmost impunity, the state may even overlook them and do the way they want. We have seen them doing things contrary to the law, and nobody takes responsibility, nothing happens to them. So Nanok knows that because we have, a precious resource within ourselves. And this resource, we must use it to, better the lives of our people. You see, the only people we need most on our side and to, walk with the same tone will be the government of the day. Because then the government of the day will support any agenda they raise, whether it is on the percentage of the distribution, whether it is on the tendering, whether it is on how, the relationship Turkana County is going to have the national government in respect of the oil as a resource. Then he realized that the most important thing for him as a governor is to work hand in hand. It's going to be very interesting to see how this oil drama in general will unfold, because remember, after we found out that we had oil, there's a lot of debate on who will do the drilling. Will it be US? Will it be China? Will it be Britain? And now what we're seeing is that even when Uhuru Kenyatta met with with Mr. Raila Odinga, one person had mentioned that since we did not know the agendas of that specific meeting, we want to remember that Kenya is now an oil country. Yes. And so much could be on the table. True. And that is why I'm even a bit skeptical, I feel, for William Ruto, because he also wants to have a big stake on this. We know how he's striving. Because in this country, for you to make sense politically, then it means 3 things must follow. One is the economic relevant. How worth do you, how worth are you? How liquid are you? You see, number 2 is the social relevant. How connected are you? Who are the people you're talking to? William Ruto realized that the 3, the 3 so-called dynasties, as you put it, already have an upper hand, compared to him. And so he has to try by all means, however, to amass wealth or whatever, so that he can be in the same class with them. And the biggest challenge is now striving. He has invested psychologically that he's going to be the next president in 2022.
Yes,
we may not dispute that, but I can tell you for free, whether he becomes the president or not, is going to be the first president who is ceremonial in this country.
All right. Let me take you back to page 2. One of the biggest stories as well as we are highlighting is the fact that Chebukati and the commissioners have vowed to stay. The quagmire within IEBC seems to see no end. First of all, we saw our Chebukati yesterday mentioning the fact that during the presser that his commissioners have vowed to stay. Nevertheless, he wants Ezra Chiloba to be given his 3 months compulsory leave so investigations during last year's election can be ongoing. Ojijo, what are your thoughts on this issue of IEBC drama that we are seeing?
Zinzi, from the start, the formation of IEBC was an illegality from the start. If you look at Article 250 of the Constitution, it tells you that every commission must be comprised of between 3 a minimum and 9 of commissioners. But when you look at Section 5 clearly of the IEBC Act, it stipulates, it has given a meaning of Section 2, Article 250 of the Constitution, and indicates that the commissioners will be 9, 8 and 1 chair of that. But we realize we just had 7. So if you look at it legally, from the beginning, there was a mistake. However, that notwithstanding, we have seen how IEBC have carried themselves throughout. You see, why are they purporting right now to resign right now when Kenyans stood the time we wanted them to provide leadership and to resign?
And to give answers.
Yes, and to give answers and to resign. They didn't want to resign. It is right now that they now want us to resign. I think the whole issue is this. When Justice Kriegler came to this country after the post-election violence in 2007,
right,
he gave us the standards and the threshold on which we can use to appoint, the electoral commissioners that are going to conduct elections. Because any commission can be forgiven in Kenya, but IEBC cannot be forgiven because this is the only commission that deals with all Kenyans directly. You see, it affects all Kenyans directly. And it is the reason why so many Kenyans right now are not willing even to participate in any elections in the near future.
And Kefa, the thing is that this specific briefing that Chebukati did yesterday just comes, what should I say, hours after the trio meeting between the Senate, the Legal Affairs, as well as the Standing Committee was cancelled.
Yes.
That was supposed to happen. It was cancelled. Chebukati gives his presser. Do you think that was a coincidence?
It has been cancelled twice. You know, there's a lot of politics playing this scheme. But whatever they are doing, let us not, play politics with Kenyans. It is enough. I mean, we are tired. In fact, if anything to go by, their time was going to end because they only have a maximum term of 6 years, non-renewable. But in any event, whatever they do is their choice. I think these people have messed Kenyans. Number one, they must resign, irrespective of that. And not just resigning. They must be charged in a court of law for 2 reasons. Number one, for abuse of the office. Yes. And number 2, for making our lives in this country miserable. So many Kenyans lost their lives in election, you see, because of the negligence of the people who are holding election. This is the first presidential elections in Africa to be bungled. You see? So it then tells you the incompetence that, the leaders in those positions, have been, seen to be. In fact, if you look at the judgment, if you look at the judgment by the Supreme Court, these are the leaders that were even found, individually, criminal. They were found criminal liability was found upon them individually, as commissioner. It has never happened. You see, people may be found, just making some simple mistake, whatever. But also, when a criminal element has been alleged upon you, then simply means that it is not just the issue of incompetence; it's an issue of also criminal act. Then you have to be charged and then sentenced. Let us go the South African way. Zuma resigned. Zuma was taken to court.
But also before Zuma resigned, it was very many years before they got Zuma to resign.
Yes, and that is the agitation we need to have as Kenyans, you see, because if we just assume things are just okay and we're just happy the way things are happening, nothing will change in this country. We need the likes of Malemas in this country to stand and say it's enough. You were given a chance, and this culture of people just, making mistakes and then they just let to scot-free, nothing, nobody, must stop. People must take responsibility on the post they're given and on how they use the taxpayers' money.
And how they hold the public office. All right, very quickly, on page 3 of the Standard this morning, I want to draw your attention to a very interesting story. So we know most people normally, not most, but a few decide to bleach. Well, one girl has decided the other way around. The headline says, Nyeri Church Baptist blonde German who turned herself black. This is what she did. She used melatonin that increases the levels of melanin in her skin. and goes on to say that she will be visiting Kenya again because she visited Kenya when she was 17, and she fell in love with the Maasai and the Samburu culture. As you can see, Ojiji on page 2, there's a picture of her white and a picture of her black. This should be a very interesting article for readers. I'll let them read that. But very quickly, take a look at the headline, and this is what we'll finish with. The Saturday Nation, the change of laws. All right, so we are knowing that Musalia Mudavadi also wants changes in the executive. We are seeing also the Kanidon Njue bishops have called for changes as well. So there's the whole issue of whether we want to change our constitution, a few of the laws and the amendments. What are your thoughts on that?
Very important. People have realized that we had laws. No, the only problem we did with the drafters of our constitution, I remember going through this, the draft of the constitution, even before it was rendered for referendum, is that we adopted a system, a presidential system, but still remained element of parliamentary system in it. So that we realized that there's a lot of contradiction in so many things within the constitution. But that notwithstanding, there's need for change. But the only person that I think has put in a proper, framework for change will become Kate. You see, if you look at Article 255 of the Constitution, provides 2 ways in which this Constitution can be amended. The first way is in Article 256 of the Constitution, which says it can be amended through a parliamentary initiative.
Right.
The second way is in Article 257 that says it can be amended through popular initiative. But in all those...
Parliamentary and popular initiative, okay.
In all those initiatives, if it arches one on the supremacy of the Constitution, on the boundaries, on the term of the president, on the work of the parliamentarians, you see, it has to be through a referendum. Now, if you look at the Kamket bill in total, then you realize that Kamket bill has 3 features that makes it very distinctive from these other bills that have been raised. Number 1, it is the first bill that requires that we create the office of the Prime Minister and the 2 deputies. Number 2, it requires that this office of Prime Minister, then we transfer all executive powers that the president had to the Prime Minister office. And then number 3, let us just make a ceremonial president and limit his term.
Yes.
You see, this is the only bill that I feel has demonstrated, the reason for amending the Constitution.
Right.
You see, because then we have realized that when we have a presidential system and have all the executive powers vested by the president, then as the saying goes, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. It becomes then, undeniable that the state tends to misuse these powers beyond any measure, you see, so that the president may do anything at wish, and nothing happened. We've seen cabinet secretary disobeying court orders. President does not say anything,
right.
And these are his appointees. So those powers must be transferred to the Prime Minister, who is answerable now to the members of Parliament.
Thank you so much, Kefa. Kefa Ojiji, who is an advocate of the High Court, helping us go through the standards and the dailies, rather. So I'll allow you to grab the copy of the Saturday Standard as well as the Saturday Nation. Ojiji, I have a quick question for you. Would you go through the vasectomy procedure?
No.
So that will be a part of our conversation when we come back from this quick commercial break. Our Twitter is already blowing up, and what we're asking you is that men, would you go through the vasectomy procedure? Women, would you allow your husbands to go through it? We'd love to hear your comments and your feedbacks with that. So we're taking a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us.